If you had to guess, what country do you think had the fastest growing stock market in the world over the last 2 years? Because the answer is probably not what you're expecting. No, it's not the United States. It's not the UK, Germany, Japan, or Canada. It's not even China, even though those countries would have been good guesses. Because despite all of these nations posting near record stock returns over the last 24 months, none of them even hold a candle to Zimbabwe. So, how much exactly did the stock market in Zimbabwe rise by? Well, as unbelievable as it sounds, between May 2020 and May 2022, the Zimbabwe Industrial Index rose by nearly 5,600%. To give you an idea of just how insane that is, that's about 129 times more than the NASDAQ. So, move over China and the EU. Is it time for the US to start worrying about Zimbabwe, overtaking it as the world's largest economic superpower? Not quite. Because what's happening in Zimbabwe may actually serve as a catastrophic warning sign for stock markets. You see, around a decade ago, Zimbabwe experienced one of the most extreme cases of hyperinflation in history, with the unofficial inflation rate hitting a record 89.7 sextillion%. It got so bad that by the time you picked an item off the shelf at a grocery store and made it to the checkout, the price could have increased drastically. A year later, the government reformed the currency to try and bring inflation under control, and the measure actually worked. Inflation fell below 5%, and from 2009 to 2018, the country's GDP grew an average of nearly 8% per year. In short, things seem to be getting back on track after the political and economic chaos of the previous decade. But here's where the root of Zimbabwe's ballooning stock market comes into play. In 2019, Zimbabwe's government decided to implement a new currency and outlaw the use of the US dollar, which had been commonly used in the country since the 2008 crisis. Later that same year, a nationwide drought and famine hit the country. Not wishing to see the economy collapse under his watch, the new president of Zimbabwe and the country's central bank decided to use a tactic that they believed would keep asset prices high. And what exactly was that tactic? They printed more money. And just a few months later, COVID struck. So with the GDP plummeting and the country on the brink of an economic collapse not seen since 2008, the central bank began to print even more money. So much money, in fact, that about 98% of all dollars in Zimbabwe have been created within the last 24 months. And this freshly printed money found its way into the stock market just as the government intended. During the last 2 years, Zimbabwe's industrial index has soared from just over 1,600 points to over 95,000. Now, you would think that a soaring stock market would be a good sign, and it certainly can be, if it's being driven by high levels of productivity. But Zimbabwe's economy is in a state of freefall. Its GDP is shrinking, and poverty rates are soaring to over 35%. And the reason why is simple. You cannot print your way to prosperity. And that is true no matter what country tries it. Unfortunately, there seem to be a lot of countries arrogantly assuming that it'll be different when they do it.